Rimuru, the New Beginning as Primordial Demon Violet by Veldanava God. Chapter 4. The Final Battle for the Infernal Throne. In the depths of the infernal plane, where time stretched and twisted into oblivion, Noir stood in front of his crystal ball, his expression as cold and calculating as ever. He had watched the battles between Violet, John, and the other Primordials unfold, each one falling to the vicious pair. Blue and Vert had been nothing but playthings for Violet and John, and Blanc had fallen too, after a grueling battle with John. Noir clenched his fist. His black aura swirled around him, a manifestation of his frustration. He knew it wouldn't be long before Violet and John came for him. He was one of the last remaining primordial demons, and he had no doubt they sought to claim dominance over the entire Inferno. But Noir wasn't one to go down without a fight. He needed an ally. Someone strong. Someone like Rouge. Rouge, the primordial red, was perhaps the only other being in the infernal plane who could match his power. For eons, they had fought for control of the Inferno, neither gaining the upper hand. But now, facing the imminent threat of Violet and John, Noir realized that their only chance for survival was to set aside their rivalry. With a decision made, Noir reached out, summoning the fiery presence of Rouge. Rouge appeared before him in a blaze of red light, his scarlet hair flowing like molten lava. His piercing red eyes locked onto Noir with suspicion. "Noir," he said, his voice laced with wariness. "What do you want? We've never been allies. Why call me now?" Noir stepped forward, his gaze steady and intense. "Things have changed, Rouge. Violet and John are sweeping through the Inferno, taking out the other primordials one by one. Blue, Vert, and Blanc are already gone. We're the only ones left." Rouge narrowed his eyes. "And what makes you think I care about that? I've always fought for myself." Noir's lips curled into a thin smile. "Because you know as well as I do that if they defeat us, the Inferno is theirs. They'll rule everything. Are you willing to let that happen? To let them strip away your power and control?" Rouge crossed his arms, considering his words. "You propose an alliance, don't you?" Noir nodded. "Exactly. We put aside our rivalry and fight together. With our combined strength, we can stop them." There was a long pause. Rouge's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but he was no fool. He had seen what Violet and John were capable of. They were relentless, brutal, and cunning. Alone, he stood little chance, but with Noir by his side. "Fine," Rouge said, his voice firm. "We'll join forces, but this is temporary. Once they're dealt with, we go back to fighting for the Inferno." Noir's smile widened. "Agreed." Meanwhile, Violet and John had been making their way across the infernal wastelands, their hunt for Noir and Rouge nearing its end. The pair had grown stronger over the centuries, their bond as comrades and queens of battle sharpening their skills. Violet's eyes gleamed with sadistic excitement as they approached the lair of their final opponents. "I can't wait to get my hands on Noir and Rouge. They've been hiding for far too long." John smirked, her golden eyes glowing with anticipation. "We've come this far. This final battle will be the one that decides it all. The Inferno will be ours, Violet." As they reached the edge of Noir's territory, the ground trembled beneath them. Flames erupted in the distance, and a dark, swirling energy filled the air. Noir and Rouge stood together, their auras intertwining in a terrifying display of power. Noir stepped forward, his crimson eyes locking onto Violet and John. "So, you've come. I expected nothing less." Rouge stood beside him, his red flames flickering dangerously. "This ends here. You won't take the Inferno from us." Violet grinned, her violet eyes glowing with malice. "Oh, Noir, Rouge, you don't understand, do you? We're not here to ask for your throne. We're here to take it." John cracked her knuckles, her voice filled with determination. "We've waited long enough. This battle will decide who rules the Inferno once and for all." The air was thick with tension as the four primordials faced off, their power crackling in the atmosphere. The final battle for dominion over the infernal plane was about to begin. Noir's voice was cold and sharp. "Don't think for a second that we'll go down easily. We've prepared for this." Rouge ignited his flames, the heat radiating from his body intense enough to melt the ground beneath his feet. "We're not going to let two upstarts like you take everything we've fought for." Violet's sadistic grin only widened. "Oh, this is going to be fun." The battle erupted in an instant, the ground beneath them cracking as waves of dark energy and flame clashed. Violet lunged at Noir, her movements a blur as she summoned tendrils of violet energy to strike him down. Noir countered with his shadowy powers, summoning a wall of darkness to block her attacks. Meanwhile, John and Rouge were locked in a deadly duel of flames and golden energy. John's speed and agility allowed her to dodge Rouge's firestorms, but the sheer heat of Rouge's power scorched the air around them. "You're fast," Rouge admitted, his red eyes narrowing as he unleashed a barrage of fiery projectiles. John dodged, her movements fluid and precise. "You're not bad either, but speed isn't everything." With a burst of energy, John closed the distance between them, delivering a powerful punch to Rouge's side. The impact sent Rouge flying backward, crashing into a nearby cliff. "Gotcha," John said with a smirk. Rouge growled, wiping blood from his mouth. "Don't get cocky, John." As the battle raged on, it became clear that this was no ordinary fight. It was a war of attrition, each side pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The infernal plane itself seemed to warp and twist under the immense power being unleashed. Violet and Noir's battle was a brutal exchange of dark and violet energy, each strike shaking the very foundations of the inferno. "You're stronger than I thought," Noir admitted, his expression grim. Violet laughed, her eyes gleaming. "Of course I am. You should have realized that sooner." John and Rouge's duel was equally intense, both primordials refusing to give an inch. "I'll admit," Rouge said, panting as he wiped sweat from his brow, "you're a worthy opponent." John grinned. "Likewise. But this is the end, Rouge." After what felt like an eternity, the battle finally began to reach its climax. Violet and John, exhausted but determined, unleashed a final combined attack on Noir and Rouge. The force of their power was overwhelming, a tidal wave of energy that engulfed the battlefield. Noir and Rouge, despite their strength, couldn't withstand the assault. Their bodies were torn apart by the raw power of Violet and John's attack, leaving nothing but ash in their wake. The century-long battle had come to an end. As the dust settled, Violet and John stood victorious, their bodies battered but unbroken. The other primordials, Blue, Vert, and Blanc, had revived just in time to witness the final moments of the battle, their eyes wide with awe and disbelief. "We did it," John said, her voice filled with exhaustion but also satisfaction. "The inferno is ours." Violet's sadistic smile returned as she looked down at the ashes of Noir and Rouge. "And now, it's time for the fun part." True to her nature, Violet didn't waste any time. With Noir and Rouge revived as weaker versions of their former selves, Violet took great pleasure in torturing them for the next 10 years. Every day, their screams echoed through the infernal plane, a constant reminder of Violet and John's dominance. Finally, after a decade of torment, Violet released Noir and Rouge from their suffering, leaving their broken bodies in the wastelands. "That was satisfying," Violet said, her voice dripping with sadistic pleasure. John chuckled, shaking her head. "You really don't hold back, do you?" Violet grinned. "Why should I? They deserved every second of it." With their enemies defeated and their reign over the infernal plane secured, Violet and John stood as the undisputed queens of the inferno. Their journey had been long and brutal, but they had emerged stronger than ever, their bond unbreakable. As they looked out over the burning wastelands of their new domain, Violet turned to John, her eyes glowing with excitement. "So, what's next, partner?" John smirked, her golden eyes gleaming. "Whatever we want. The inferno is ours."